everything changed just 1 minute ago. Rosie Duffield, a sitting Labour MP, has resigned, and her resignation letter is an absolute bombshell. This isn't just a quiet goodbye, it's a direct, scathing attack on Keir Starmer's leadership, accusing him of deception, betrayal, and dangerous double standards. But that's just the beginning. As Duffield walks out, she rips the lid off a mounting scandal that's been quietly growing under Starmer's watch. Over $107,000 in undisclosed freebies, elite gifts, secret upgrades, and a $22 billion black hole in the public purse that Starmer can't seem to explain. The party once promising truth and transparency is now caught in a web of hypocrisy and silence. Duffield didn't just resign, she detonated a political earthquake. And if her words are true, Starmer's house of cards might be seconds away from collapsing. What exactly did Rosie reveal? Why is the $22 billion hole being ignored? And could this be the beginning of Keir Starmer's political downfall? Rosie Duffield's resignation wasn't a whisper, it was a war cry. After months of tension, sidelining and internal frustration, she finally did what many within the party were too afraid to do. She spoke up, and when she did, she didn't hold back. Her letter wasn't dressed in soft words or political niceties. It was brutal. In her own handwriting, she accused Keir Starmer of transforming the Labour Party into a top-down authoritarian machine where dissent is punished, voices are silenced, and loyalty is demanded without question. She called out the leadership's betrayal of women's rights, its culture of fear, and most damningly, its two-faced morality. Duffield claimed she had been treated like a nuisance, pushed aside, isolated, and ignored, simply for speaking the truth and standing up for what she believed in. While Labour officials wrapped themselves in the language of inclusion, Rosie revealed a darker reality behind closed doors: bullying, gaslighting, and top-down control. But the real blow came when she exposed what she called the rot at the top, a culture where Starmer demands strict conduct from others while quietly benefiting from thousands in luxury perks himself. According to newly uncovered records, Keir Starmer has accepted over $107,000 in private hospitality, first-class upgrades, luxury boxes at football matches, VIP events, and elite donor-funded trips. From Wimbledon to Wembley he's flown high, often literally, on the kind of privileges he condemns in others. In public, Starmer lectures on fairness. In private, he reclines in corporate boxes sipping champagne. And Duffield wasn't alone, in her disgust. Across the party, whispers began to swell. If Rosie's speaking up, how many others feel the same? But what's even more chilling is what Duffield hinted at, something far more damaging than just hypocrisy. A gaping hole in the national accounts, $22 billion, gone, unexplained. And when asked about it, Starmer offered silence. The number didn't come from Duffield alone. This hole has been lurking in the shadows of Labour's fiscal plan, with economists and insiders warning that key policies lack clarity, costings, or accountability. So where is the money? What's being hidden? Why won't Starmer address it? The resignation comes at the worst possible time for Labour. With a general election looming, Starmer was hoping to project calm control. Instead, the storm is here, and Rosie Duffield has just stepped into the eye of it. Her words are now public record, and within them is an accusation that could shake the foundations of the entire Labour movement. That Keir Starmer is no longer the man he claimed to be. The man who once stood for justice now stands accused of hypocrisy, elitism, and financial silence. For months, Duffield had been sounding the alarm behind closed doors. Now she's said enough. Her parting shot. The country deserves better. Labour deserves honesty, and the truth can't be buried forever. But the truth, as she hinted, goes deeper than most realise. In the next section, we uncover the full scale of Starmer's luxury lifestyle, the web of elite donors supporting him, and the dangerous illusion that's been sold to the public. If you thought Duffield's letter was the end, think again. The real scandal is just beginning. As Rosie Duffield's letter rippled across Westminster, shock turned into scrutiny. MPs, journalists, and even members of the public started asking one simple question. How much does Keir Starmer really have to hide? At first glance, $107,000 in freebies might sound like a headline, but when you dig deeper, it becomes a red flag waving wildly above a party that claims to fight for working-class Britain. Let's break it down. Since becoming Labour leader, Starmer has accepted gifts and hospitality that paint a very different picture from the man who once promised to be a principled public servant. Private boxes at football matches worth thousands, corporate-funded travel upgrades, luxury, tickets to Wimbledon, 5-star accommodation. He's been seen rubbing shoulders with high society while simultaneously calling out the Tories for being out of touch. Duffield wasn't just talking about perks, she was warning the country that Labour's leader is playing a double game. And the numbers don't lie. This $107,000 isn't an accusation, it's publicly declared, sourced from the Register of Interests. But here's where it gets darker. Alongside these lavish perks is the growing question of the missing $22 billion. This figure has haunted Labour's economic credibility ever since independent analysts flagged a black hole in Starmers. Financial plans. Policy after policy was announced, but without clear answers on how they would be paid for. When pressed, Labour brushed it off. They changed the subject. But now, Duffield's resignation has reignited the fire. Because if the party can't account for $22 billion, what does that mean for the future of the country? The deeper issue isn't just the missing billions, it's the silence around them. Starmer has built his reputation on being calm, composed, and professional. But behind that polished exterior, a storm is brewing. And Rosie Duffield just gave it a voice. She suggested that internal dissent was crushed, questions went unanswered, and any criticism of Starmer's leadership was treated as betrayal. That's not democracy, it's control. And it mirrors the exact behaviour Labour used to attack when it came from Downing Street. The timing couldn't be worse. Labour is riding high in the polls, with the party positioning itself as the only real alternative to the Conservatives. But Duffield's exit casts doubt on the very core of that message. If the party is hiding secrets, silencing dissent and protecting elite privilege, how different is it really from the ones it criticises? And let's not forget the context of Duffield's personal treatment. For months, she says she was sidelined, bullied and ignored, not because she broke the rules, but because she refused to stay silent. Her stance on gender issues had already made her a target within her own party, where ideology is policed more fiercely than policy. She hinted that this was no accident. Starmer's team, she said, created an atmosphere where independent thought was dangerous, and total loyalty to the leadership was the only path to survival. But if Starmer expects loyalty, what has he given in return? That's where the real hypocrisy begins to show. Because while ordinary MPs are expected to walk the line, Starmer himself has been indulging in luxury behind closed doors. From donor-funded flights to corporate-sponsored events, the image of a man fighting for the common worker is starting to crack. And as the $22 billion gap lingers without explanation, Duffield's warning grows louder. This isn't what the Labour Party was built for. She's not alone. Behind the scenes, murmurs are turning into movements. Other MPs, some silent until now, are beginning to ask if they too were misled. Was Starmer's rise to power built on a carefully crafted illusion? And if so, who is he really working for? The people of Britain, or the elite few bankrolling his image? As pressure mounts, Keir Starmer is facing the most dangerous test of his leadership yet. Rosie Duffield may have been the first to speak, but the door she opened could soon become a floodgate. In the next section, we examine Starmer's inner circle, the donors, the deals, and the backroom politics that could bring this entire operation crashing down. Because if the house of cards is falling, it's not just Starmer who should be worried. It's everyone who helped build it. As the dust from Rosie Duffield's explosive resignation settles, a spotlight now shines relentlessly on the inner workings of Keir Starmer's leadership team. This isn't just about one MP's departure. This is about a network of influence, power, and shadowy deals that could unravel everything Starmer has built. The $107,000 in freebies and the mysterious $22 billion hole are just the visible cracks on what many insiders are calling a house of cards. At the heart of this storm lies Starmer's inner circle, the close advisors, donors, and political strategists who have guided his path since he took over the Labour leadership. Unlike the polished image he projects in public, behind the scenes, the atmosphere is far less controlled. Whispers of influence peddling and cosy relationships with big business are growing louder. Critics argue that Starmer's team has prioritised pleasing wealthy donors over listening to the party's grassroots supporters. This disconnect is no accident. It's a calculated strategy that now threatens to backfire spectacularly. Documents recently leaked reveal meetings with major corporate donors whose interests seem to conflict with Labour's public promises. These donors have provided significant funding, sometimes in exchange for access and influence over policy decisions. The financial transparency that Starmer promised during his campaign appears to be a distant memory. Questions arise. How much of Labour's agenda is shaped by these backroom deals, and how much of the party's direction is truly independent? Starmer's response has been predictable: denial and deflection. His team insists there is nothing improper about accepting donations or hospitality. But the public is increasingly sceptical. In an era when trust in politicians is at an all-time low, the optics of lavish freebies and billion-pound black holes are devastating. People want to know, is Starmer genuinely different from the politicians he criticises, or just another player in the same game? Meanwhile, the $22 billion question hangs over everything. Analysts and economists point out that this missing sum could have funded critical public services, infrastructure, or social welfare programmes. Instead, it's become a political weapon used to question Labour's competence and honesty. Duffield's resignation letter accuses Starmer of a lack of accountability, a claim echoed by many Labour MPs frustrated by the secrecy and silence from the leadership. Inside Parliament, the tension is palpable. Some Labour MPs are reportedly considering their own positions, worried that remaining silent could damage their careers or reputations. Others feel trapped, caught between loyalty to their leader and the growing calls for transparency and reform. Duffield's bold stand has inspired many, but it has also exposed deep fractures within the party. Adding fuel to the fire is the public's reaction. Social media is ablaze with debates, memes, and calls for investigations. Ordinary voters are demanding answers, fed up with political doublespeak. The narrative is clear. If Starmer cannot address these scandals head-on, his credibility and Labour's chances in the next election are in jeopardy. This is more than just political drama. It's a test of leadership, integrity, and the future of a party that claims to represent the people. Starmer's next moves will be crucial. Will he confront these allegations with honesty and openness, or will he continue to circle the wagons, risking further damage? The coming weeks will be decisive. Starmer's allies are rallying, preparing damage control strategies, but Duffield's resignation has already changed the game. The questions she raised won't go away, and the pressure to explain the freebies, the missing billions, and the leadership style is intensifying. The storm unleashed by Rosie Duffield's resignation letter is far from over. It is just the beginning of what could become a full-scale crisis for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party. The sharp criticisms and damning revelations are shaking the very foundations of the opposition, casting doubt on Starmer's leadership and the future of the party. He hoped to lead back into power. This is more than a political hiccup. It's a moment that could define the next chapter of British politics. Duffield's resignation is not merely an act of frustration, it's a clarion call highlighting deep-rooted problems within Labour's ranks. The fact that a sitting MP, someone who had dedicated years to the party's cause, would walk away in such dramatic fashion signals widespread dissatisfaction. Her letter, laced with anger and disappointment, painted a picture of a leadership disconnected from the grassroots, indifferent to the very people it claims to serve. The anger wasn't just about policy or direction, it was about principle, integrity and honesty, qualities voters expect, but fear are missing. Behind closed doors, Labour's senior officials are scrambling. The leaked numbers, $107,000 worth. Of gifts and freebies, expensive suits, VIP tickets, and the mysterious $22 billion hole are a public relations nightmare. These figures don't just make for bad headlines, they erode trust. When the opposition party, which positions itself as a champion of fairness and justice, is revealed to be entangled in scandals over money and influence, voters take notice. Starmer's image as a reformer, a cleaner alternative to the Tories, is rapidly tarnishing. The scale of the financial questions raised is staggering. $22 billion is not a trivial sum. It's a massive chunk of the public purse that could fund hospitals, schools, social care or infrastructure. Instead, this figure has become a symbol of mismanagement, secrecy and possibly corruption. Duffield's accusation that Labour inherited this hole but has failed to address it transparently adds fuel to the fire. Critics argue that rather than confronting the issue honestly, Starmer's team has been evasive, choosing to bury uncomfortable truths. On the parliamentary floor, Labour's image is taking a beating. Other MPs, witnessing Duffield's brave stand, face increasing pressure to speak out or resign. Some whisper about a brewing rebellion within the party's ranks, where frustration over leadership decisions is reaching a boiling point. The fear of electoral disaster looms large. If Labour cannot clean house and regain public trust, the next general election could be catastrophic. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party is not missing its chance. The Tories have seized on these revelations to paint Labour as hypocrites, preaching about anti-corruption and fairness, while their leader collects lavish gifts and dodges accountability. This attack line is resonating with voters tired of political scandals and eager for stability. Starmer's inability to put this controversy to rest hands the Conservatives a potent weapon in the battle for public opinion. The media frenzy surrounding Starmer's freebies and the $22 billion deficit shows no sign of slowing. Every day brings new stories, new leaks, and new voices questioning his leadership. This relentless scrutiny is testing Starmer's resilience. For a man who campaigned on transparency and honesty, the irony is brutal. His every move is now dissected under a microscope, and missteps are magnified. Starmer's next steps will be critical. The choice is stark: double down and fight through the storm, addressing concerns head-on and promising reforms, or retreat into silence and risk, further alienating the party's supporters and the wider public. Some insiders speculate that a major shake-up in Labour's leadership team is inevitable, with calls for greater transparency and tighter controls on donations and gifts. The party needs a new narrative, one that restores faith in its commitment to the people, and she,